Typically our meetings are pretty flowing, but we have a lot to get through tonight. We're going to try to remain structured, on topic, and discuss issues that are on the agenda, as kind of they're on the agenda, and those other guys contribute and recognize. And we'll hopefully get through the entire meeting before we have to leave tonight. Hopefully at 9, but if they extend, we'll extend for a little bit. I want to do one thing out of order with the council. Okay, I wanted to have the presentations done before the public comments. One situation came up with the audit, the auditors, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. But I'd like to have, we're not going to have the auditor's not here. I'll explain that in just a minute. But I'd like to have the police officer presentation done beforehand, if that's okay. Good? Okay. Chief, why don't you come on up and do your thing?
Thank you, Mayor, Council, citizens. Today's a good day for the Phoenix Police Department. We just got 2 of our officers back from the Police Academy, Officer Curtis and Officer DeKruger. If you guys can come on up. They just spent 16 weeks, but it actually ended up being 19 weeks at the Police Academy. It's normally 16 weeks, but since we sent them up there just before Thanksgiving, they got stuck taking a break over Thanksgiving and then 2 weeks over Christmas and New Year's, so they had to travel up for 19 weeks. So it was a little bit longer for them. But up at DPSST, the Academy, they received over 650 hours of training hours. Now they come back. Officer Curtis will be riding with Officer Tom Bailey for the next 12 to 16 weeks. And Officer DeKruger will be riding with Officer Kell for the next 12 to 16 weeks. Actually, they'll only be riding with those officers for about 6 weeks, and then we'll transfer them over to a different officer, and they'll rotate through all of our officers throughout the field training program. It normally is a 16-week program. However, since the 2 breaks that they got during the academy, they were actually receiving some of the field training program at that time. So I just wanted to bring them up here, introduce them to you, although they were introduced a while back when we swore them in, but I just wanted to refresh your memory of what they look like, and they'll be out there. So if you see them, say hi, say thank you, and we appreciate everything they do.
As I mentioned, our auditors I got an email at 3:45 this afternoon saying that something unexpected came up. According to Rob, who is the auditor for the city from Wall and Wall. We were unable to travel down to council meetings tonight. We're glad to reschedule probably after the tax season. He will work with the city, and we'll be glad to review the reports, discuss everything that's necessary in depth and detail, answer any questions regarding the audit or related financial matters, and I apologize. One of the main reasons why I wanted to have him here tonight is to help allay some of the questions or fears or rumors that are out there regarding Phoenix's financial position. The last thing said that I would consider a rumor just not true, so I really wanted to have the experts come in with the auditors, a third-party entity, so we can ask them the questions. I did have a chance to ask them a number of questions about our finances. And I'm just going to report on their behalf a little bit, and they're going to be here, like I said, probably after tax season. And I'd love for everyone to come that has concerns about finances here in the city and hear what they have to say directly. But I asked them if there's crisis and financial issues here in the city. The answer was no. I asked them if there's serious lack of checks and balances in our city. No. Are there signs of misappropriations? There was an accusation out there that we had misappropriations, which was pretty serious stuff. That's stealing, folks. And someone says misappropriations going on. They had no indication of misappropriations going on. They said we got a clean opinion with no deficiencies or misstatements. They made some recommendations for us to make improvements. So I said, how many times do you go out there to audit the city and you make recommendations to make improvements? They said 75% of the time they make recommendations on how to make improvements because no one's perfect. There's always little ways to improve how we're doing in the city. One of those areas was the documents, procedures, and processes which is in place. But I'm hoping that, if I'm in the community and outside the city council, outside the department heads and outside the city workers, I'd be worried too based on what I hear in the paper. I'm hoping that will allay some fears. I'm gonna go over some other information in a little while that I hope with the lights and fears also, what's going on in our city. We're doing well, and sometimes the perception is not reality. Questions on the audit while we're on it? Great. I'm going to open up the public comments in just a few moments, but I wanted to relay some information. So I'm going to make a statement, and we'll begin to take comments about items not on the agenda. If I could have the, yeah, thank you. Good. So I was telling the council president, vice president at today's meeting, I was going to explain how it came about that we needed to set up a meeting to review the performance of our city manager and explain what led to us approaching former city administrator Dave Cantor. Then a constituent in the email recommended the same thing, more sunlight. So if you don't mind, I'm going to take a few minutes and discuss the process that took place that led up to that meeting and hopefully put some sunlight on the issues. By the way, I want to thank Tony for having a retraction in the Mail Tribune. There's some things that were put into an article recently that weren't accurate. And he stepped up, approached the editor, talked to Bruce, and a retraction was issued in the paper, although it's quite small. It's on page A2, and it's right in the bottom left-hand corner, so you really see it, but there was a nice retraction there. I appreciate the stand-up effort. Thanks, Tony. Let me also say that I'm here to serve what I believe to be the best interest of the city, and God knows I'm not perfect. I'm always looking back at ways to handle things better, in a better way, and looking at how I can improve and do things better. One thing that I want to do, and I told Stuart this, I want to avoid scheduling special meetings and just have things done on a regular time frame. He works, I work, other people work. People have expectations. They go to a meeting, a regular meeting, and see things on that meeting. A couple of weeks ago, I made, I think, possibly 2 errors. One was after our city council meeting, guys. We had a council meeting where it was a special meeting to evaluate the performance of the city manager. At the end of that meeting, I was going to go into the process of where we go now. And all heck was breaking loose in here. One woman was yelling and screaming, had to be escorted out by the police. It was just crazy in here. And I was like, what's going on? And Sarah said, are we adjourned? I thought, do I adjourn now and get this done with and move on? I adjourned the meeting. At that point, I think I should have said, guys, stay here. We got business to do. We have to clear people out. They're disruptive. Do it. Then we should maintain that meeting. The second thing I think we could have done differently is not schedule the meeting, period, that special meeting, to interview Mr. Cantor and talk about the ways to bring on an interim city manager, not have the meeting until now. Now, I know what's going on in the city, and as was expressed in one meeting, there's the iceberg tip, and then there's what's going on underneath. I know day to day in the city, you need to have a city manager there to help manage things. And every day is absolutely critical. So I didn't want to go another week personally, but I think we could have waited. Wouldn't have been, I don't think the best thing to do, but I think in hindsight, it would have been the best thing to do in order to alleviate having a special meeting. Also, I just want to say that it takes time for city council to gel. The last city council was together for 4 years. We worked quite well together as a team, and it worked very well. And it took some time for us to get together too. There was turmoil at the very beginning, and then it kind of gelled together, and we worked very well together. I think we're going to get there. I think, I just think we're going to get there. So I'm going to talk about how we got here, and like the Mail Tribune said, we need to have some sunshine. And hopefully what I'm about to say will dispel some rumors and let everyone know what actually happened. Bear with me, okay? So, a few weeks ago, I ran into a city employee at a store in Medford. And that employee had pulled me on the side and talked to me for 15, 20 minutes about problems that were happening, the situation that was happening with his department head vis-a-vis the leadership style of the city manager. And he said that that was affecting his department head, and it was also affecting his group of employees in that department. And he went on for about 20 minutes. Okay. And it's not what you want to hear, but then a couple days later, I got a request to meet with a department head from a different department. And I spent maybe an hour going over the level of discontent he had with the leadership style of the city manager. The department head did not like coming to work. The department head lost trust in the city manager, and the employees under the department's head supervision are also being impacted negatively. At that point, I had to approach somebody else. So I approached our city council president, who's been around forever. And no, not for, but he has been around forever. Does a great job for us. He's been around a long time. So I said, Bruce, I want you to hear from his words, his mouth. I don't want to synthesize it out and have Bruce hear it from me. I wanted him to sit down with that department head and hear it firsthand. So Bruce was gracious enough to meet with that department head, and like I said, I want to have him hear the facts directly. Subsequent to that, all department heads came to me and said, Chris, will you meet with me? And I said, okay. And they expressed to me of the similar concerns regarding a poor work environment and lack of trust with the city manager. They had issues dealing, I guess the city manager also had problems dealing with our former planner / interim city manager. So we have 4 department heads that have problems dealing with the city manager in a management style. And there were also people that were, I'll say, affiliated with the city who had expressed a discontent with the management style, not just the department heads. And by the way, I just want to say that I'm willing to meet one-on-one with individuals. I've talked to many constituents the past few days. If you guys want to set meetings to talk, one-on-one, in groups, I'm willing to do that and go into more detail. Tonight I can't get into tons of detail. We can't have a back and forth, not a conversation, I'll be here all night. I just want to let you know I'm available for one-on-one meetings. The leadership team and the department heads discussed 3 real-world scenarios that we could do, given the circumstances. The first was to do nothing, as Jim calls it, the null set. And to do nothing, it was determined that nothing would maintain a terrible work environment for all department heads, lead to loss over time of all of our department heads, and we'll lose some other employees. It wasn't a viable choice. The second course of action considered was to arrange for mediation and counseling. The level of trust had been so severely eroded in the minds of all the department heads that mediation and counseling was not considered a viable option. All department heads felt that that the third option, a change in leadership, was the best course of action. The leadership team agreed. Per our city charter, this option had to come before the city council. Had to. By the way, there clearly was no violation of city charter rules, as some have asserted. No one but the city council can hire or release a city manager, and that is what transpired. It was agreed that we needed to meet with the city manager and provide her with information we gathered, and to arrange for an opportunity for seeking an amicable separation agreement that would come before the council. The leadership team met with the city manager, and approximately 1 minute into the conversation, the city manager left the room. By the way, again, clearly no violation of city charter rules at that meeting. Decision to hire and release is a council decision. So a public city council meeting was arranged in order to have the council hear directly from the department heads about the problems they were experiencing. Again, I couldn't, as mayor, neither could the council leadership team go to the city council members and start relaying information about that particular meeting that we would eventually deliberate about and also make a decision. We couldn't do that. And again, I wanted to hear them directly from the city department heads instead of having it be coming from me or Bruce or Jim. You just can't do that. That would be a violation of public meeting laws. One person commented the city councilors looked like deers in the headlight when this happened. That's exactly what should have happened. They should have had no knowledge of what the department heads were going to say at that meeting. That's exactly what happened. They had no knowledge. They need to hear that in like the Mail Tribune says, in sunlight, in the daylight. And that's exactly what happened, and it had to be a public meeting. Actually, it could have been a private, the city manager could have chosen to have it be a private executive session and held behind closed doors and no one could be in here. Or she could choose to have it in an open session, which she did. So I was gonna talk about why wasn't the city council notified of the process that led up to the performance review meeting. I think I just talked about that, and it had to be done in public. I was considering the well-being of our employees, our public servants, and I consider that a very high priority. And the last thing I want is for them to leave us. I want Phoenix to be a wonderful work environment for them. On another note, there has been much said and written about our city being in a crisis mode. Putting myself in the shoes of our citizens, I'd be worried too. If I read everything I saw in the paper, if I read the minutes that are in today's packet, I'd be worried. If I saw if I heard rumors around the city, I'd be worried also. I'd be thinking, what's going on with my taxpayer dollars? Why isn't the city running efficiently? What the heck is going on? I mean, there was words put out that I think are just bombshell accusations. Phoenix has several systematic dysfunctional practices, including lack of sufficient administrative checks and balances to safeguard city resources. That's our money. There's a lack of fiduciary safeguards. That's a huge problem if it's true, but it isn't. Covering or attempting to cover up errors and misappropriations. I told the person misappropriations is stealing. Be careful what you say. It can get you in legal trouble, and it's just not true. But that rumor is out there, and that's in the newspapers. The city is operating in a crisis mode. The city is in a crisis in terms of human resources, financial issues, and overall functionality. It's not true. Our independent financial auditors, I mentioned a few seconds ago, are scheduled to be here tonight. As I mentioned before, they said we received a clean audit with no deficiencies or statements. I asked them if there was anything that indicated that our finance department was in a state of crisis. No. Is the financial review the same as the review from last year? Steve Weber was our financial head last year during the audit. I said, did you see a lot of difference between when Steve Weber was the department head versus our current department head? No. And they said, in most cases, 75% of the time there's room for improvement. We can always improve on things. The city is made up of 4 departments. We've got a police department, planning department, we've got a public works department, and finance. Auditors said our finances look fine. There is no shenanigans going on with payroll. It's been recently said that the city thought about outsourcing our payroll to the county. And on Bill Meyer's radio show, it was thought that there's something wrong with our payroll, that there's something malicious going on. It's not true. What had happened is I made a recommendation to Jamie McLeod, our city manager, to outsource our payroll. I said, we're under time constraints, it's inexpensive. I mentioned what we use at our business. Short payroll is $2 per employee and $60 a month. It would cost $100 per month to do our payroll, and that task is off our staff. And light bulbs started to go off. That's a good idea. So she went to the county to see if they can take care of our payroll, outsource it to them first. There was no shenanigans going on with payroll. It's just a way to bring down costs and streamline our processes in the city. There is no shenanigans going on with our payroll, period. By the way, the team research unit does come in and audit the payroll also every couple of years, every 2-3 years. They go through the payroll. So I'm going to ask each of the department heads a couple of questions to hopefully allay some fears within our city. Now, the police department has half of our employees. Half the money that we bring in goes to the police department. And I gave Derek a little heads up a little while ago. And Derek, there he is.
Yes.
Chief, is your department dysfunctional in a state of crisis?
I do not believe so.
Thank you. I got to ask, okay? Are you operating without sufficient administrative checks and balances needed to safeguard our city resources?
I do not believe so.
Thank you. Ray DePasquale runs the Public Works Department. That's our second most amount of employees. The second most amount of money in our city goes to the Planning Department. Ray, I'm going to ask the same question. Is your department dysfunctional or in a state of crisis?
I don't believe so, no.
Thank you. Are you operating without sufficient administrative checks and balances needed to safeguard our city resources?
No, I don't believe we're operating outside checks and balances.
Thank you. Now, Ray's the closest guy. We don't have a planning director right now. We interviewed one on Friday. Tremendous guy. I think things we come up for, but I don't really know, but, right, can you speak to the planning department? Are they in a state of crisis and dysfunctional?
I don't believe so. I've been working with the planning commission, more so recently, and getting involved in some of the other aspects of the planning department operations, and they do a fine job of taking care of the business of the planning department.
We're looking for a planning director. Any comments on a planning director?
The interviewee,
Yeah, the interview.
I think he's a candidate that's well worth looking at and discussing further with the council.
At that meeting also looks, he's a short guy. I'm almost done. There was a point made many times that we don't have sufficient checks and balances in the city. Again, not true. I'll give you 2 examples. We have to pay all our vendors. We give checks to the vendors that we use. If we're gonna cut a vendor check, the first step has to be that the department head has to look at that check and verify it's a good check to be paid out. That's check number 1. Check number 2, the finance department looks at that check to make sure it should be cut. That's check number 2. And then that check goes to the city manager. Check number 3, then that check lands within the mayor's mailbox, or within the, and I take a look at it, or Jim takes a look at it, or Bruce takes a look at it. There's 4 checks for issuing one department, one vendor check that has to be issued. And I'll ask questions. I'll say, what is this for? Who are these people? And I'll ask questions, so does Bruce and Jim to a lesser extent, but we're asking questions. There's 4 checks to issue one vendor check. On payroll, the timesheets are given to each department head and reviewed by the department head as check 1. The timesheets are then given to an administrative assistant to put into the system, check number 2. And then it's reviewed by the finance director, check number 3. There are many other checks and balances in our city. It was said that we don't have checks and balances. We do. Now, there's always room for improvement. And let me say, I'd like to have I'm going to call it a 30-day cooling off period. And like I said, I'm offering to meet with any citizen, one-on-one or in groups with me. I can bring along the council president with the approval of our future interim director. We can even meet with the individual directors. What I'm trying to do is allay some fears and squash these rumors that are going around our city. I'll come to the community dinner and talk to individuals. I've also asked, with council approval, of course, we may hire an interim city manager tonight. I've approached one city manager and asked him, Dave Canner, would he come back to us in 45 days with a review of the claims that have been bombshelled on, as we're going to call it. They really are bombshells. I want him to look at things that are going on inside the city. I don't know Dave from Adam. Before I met him, he was recommended to us by Jamie McLeod to do some strategic goals and planning. I got his name from the League of Oregon Cities. Notice, hey, that's the same guy that Jamie McLeod had recommended, and I didn't think he was going to come with us. He wants to come with us. I hope he comes with us. But I'm going to charge him with coming back to the citizens about 45 days and giving us a review of what's going on in our city to help, again, allay some fears that are out there. So what I'm looking to do is restore trust and accountability and communication. I also want to suggest, I want him to suggest areas that also need improvement. When we get to the interim city manager segment on the agenda, I'll talk to how I found out about Dave Canner and how I found out about somebody else that was an eligible guy to be our interim city manager. Well, that's what I have for now. And I'd like the community to go out and tell others. So if you're in a meeting and someone says, hey, the Phoenix are in dire straits, let them know that you heard from the mayor and that he heard from the auditors that it's not. If they have questions regarding payroll misappropriations, talk to them about what I said. If they have questions, call me, call one of the counselors, call our council president, make arrangements to talk to the financial director directly, our city attorney directly. We'll set you up. Okay? That's it for now, guys. I appreciate you listening to my I appreciate your patience, and now we're gonna open it up to comments from the public. Paul K. Item number 5, sorry. Carolyn Bartel, you want to speak to things not on the agenda?
So are you taking comments on the agenda or?
I'm taking comments on things that are not on the agenda. You mentioned you want to be heard on agenda item number 5. So we can wait till then. Andy, you want to be heard on number 3 and do public comments, right? Okay, you have next.
Hello, everyone. Most of you know me. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of Stan and I both. I appreciate the comments the mayor has made. Stan and I were both on the council that hired our former city manager, and I'm going to read too. I do better if I read. I don't forget half the stuff. Stan and I were both members of the council that hired our former city manager last November. Before the hiring, during the interview process, both council and department heads were very impressed with her qualifications and supportive of her hiring. It is never easy dismissing an employee. With any new employee, there is a probationary period, the first part of employment, to see how someone's management style works with staff and council, to make sure the hire is a good fit, workable fit for both sides. During this probationary period, it became clear that some of our dedicated public employees quickly lost trust in her abilities. When department heads of a city have the same grievance and distrust a new city manager and express a desire to quit, action must be taken. The choice was clear. The council action took dismissing the city manager was a vote in support of our city employees. After being involved with the city government for the last 8 years, listening to an audio of the comments made at the March 8th council meeting where the city manager was dismissed, reading Jamie's own employment review and talking with others involved, I must say, as being part of the council who hired Jamie, the hiring was a mistake that the council made. At the time, we were looking outside the box. We did not hire a person with city administration leadership or city management experience. It really was in the best interest of the city to dismiss the city manager and for both sides to move on. Now the council needs to move forward. Council needs to hire an interim city manager who has past city manager experience and knowledge to help move the city forward with current city business and with the hiring of a new city manager. There have been so many false statements, stories, and accusations thrown around town by a few that are just not true. It would be hard to address them. The best way to address them is to ignore them and move forward. We ourselves have heard from many residents, more than most people realize, about what is happening in the city now. And the overwhelming majority of the community, the ones who live here, trust this council to take the actions that are in the best interest of the city, and they believe that you did. Stan and I have known and had the pleasure of serving with our current mayor and some of the current city council members for many years. We believe in you, we have confidence in you, we trust you to make the right decisions, and we support you. And one last little comment I wanted to throw in, that we both have known Pat Daly for over 15 years. He's talked to us a long time about giving back to the community, and he would be a good member of council.
Thank you. And after Annie, we have you want to comment both in the PHURA section and just the PHURA section?
I'll talk about both one time.
Yeah, you can do that during PHURA, with comment.
Okay.
And we'll have Mike Foster after this, okay? Mike? Annie?
Okay, thank you for allowing us to have this public time to talk, because I feel that certain impressions were made by the last council meeting that were very disturbing. And I attended that. I was here, and I felt alarmed, and I was upset by the abrupt change, the abrupt decision, and I felt it was an abrupt decision to fire Ms. McLeod. But I didn't know enough to determine whether that decision was best or not. But I was troubled by the process that I witnessed. So in general, I want to say some general things, and then I want to talk about some more specific things. I think that the general concern I have is about the large turnover of city staff. And it sounds like you are trying to prevent losing staff, but there have been key positions that have been turned over. And so that constant change, I think, makes everybody feel a bit insecure. Furthermore, when you have leaders who are changing rapidly, you lack some continuity, and a vision for the city seems to not really take hold, or it flips back and forth and all over the place. So I'm wondering if we are able to develop long-range plans and really be able to move forward and execute them when we constantly lose people. We seem able to attract qualified people, but then within a relatively short time, their faults are focused on, and they are either fired or they leave for greener pastures. Now, this is a condition. I don't know if you can do anything about it, but somehow I think we need to deal with that issue. Is the vetting process weak? Do those who hire know what kind of skills or the personality of potential city managers, planners, and financial officers? I don't know. I'm not sure about that. But the vetting process seems, when we make mistakes and they keep happening, I'm wondering why. So maybe, and then such a rapid decision to fire the city manager without a transparent process undermines the public's confidence in the councilors and the mayor. So it seems to me that there should be more time, and at least for the public to know, because otherwise it's, people don't understand. It's shock. And, maybe you're supposed to look like you're in the headlights, but I don't think that's a wise public policy to upset people that dramatically. And then there's all this other fear. We live in an age of paranoia and fear. We don't trust our government. As a nation, it seems like right now we're having all kinds of questions. And so I'm just saying that mistrust is the biggest issue here that we have to deal with. I'm saying that when I left, I didn't know what to think. And I don't have hard feelings towards anybody on this council, but I didn't know. The allegations were made, it was very hard to know. So I think we really do need to, and I'm glad you made the effort to, clarify some of these things. Because that is a trust-building thing rather than secretive or, we don't know what's going on. Then I have some specific things. I do believe there should be long-range and strategic planning for the city, and that's important.
It'll be agendized soon, by the way.
Great.
This will be agendized, I think, for tonight, but we have much going on.
Okay. The other thing is train for all city council members by the Oregon League of Cities or another qualified body. Somebody, because I feel we have a lot of new people, and even some of the senior members that haven't been on for less than a year, right? So it's just, there needs to be, I think there's a feeling of discontinuity in the council itself. You've answered some of the questions about the financial things. I'm wondering if a lot of things were stated by Jeanette Booth, the financial officer, about that she had a hard time working on the budget. I was thinking maybe she needs a short-term person to help her if she is having difficulty, because that apparently was a problem for the former city manager. And I want to know about the cost of firing Ms. McLeod. How much was that? How much is involved with that? And because that's an expense. We talked about the expense of not firing her, but there is an expense to firing too. Then I believe, and you answered this, and I'm thankful for this, that you will have the new interim manager investigate all the allegations that were made by Ms. McLeod. Because I do believe that as taxpayers, we all expect accountability. And we want to have proof that, of knowledge, that we have a knowledgeable, an efficient, and an honest government. Okay, and then the only thing I'm saying is I personally would like to have Judy Grillo or Brian Westerberg, because these are people who haven't had a chance to be involved in the city government, and both of those people are new and would bring some interesting ideas, I think, to our city council. So those are my final comments.
Thank you very much. You know, I'm gonna write down questions that people have, and I'm gonna answer them. We don't usually answer it in public comment, but later on, I'm
This is my wife, DRA.
Something came up, all our towns are trained by the legal cities when they come on board, and they said it's trained by our attorney.
Yep. Hey, Mike, after Mike, we're gonna have Lila.
Excuse me, Mayor, do you mind if I remind you that when folks sit down, they're supposed to give us their name and address?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Because we missed two now. Where do you live?
Not in the church.
Thank you. Well, why don't we go back a step and
Annie Drager, 830 Ammerman Drive, right up the road.
thank you. And who else? And Carolyn.
Carol. 616 Cheryl in Phoenix.
I have a lot in my mind and forgetting some things tonight. Go ahead, Mike. Your name
I'm
and
the Reverend
address.
Mike Foster,
Yep.
and I serve as pastor for the First Presbyterian Church, 121 West 2nd Street, and I serve on the board of the First Phoenix Community Center as the board secretary. I find myself here engaged in civil discourse, standing in the footsteps and foundations of one Mr. Jonathan Witherspoon, who stepped out of his pulpit as a reverend and signed the Declaration of Independence that began "We the people," in order to ensure a more perfect union, or something to that effect, in order to form a more perfect union. How's that? Being willing to step out and step into the civil process to say things gotta change. We need to do things differently. Further back, I can step in the footsteps, rather with great humility, of the Apostle Paul as he admonished the people of Corinth to, well, what's become the battle cry for folks in the Reformed theological traditions, to act decently and in order. I find myself here today because everything revolving around the firing of the former city manager has been indecent and disorderly. Disorder, a lack of process, has not been followed, has not been transparent, and it didn't begin with the firing of Jamie McLeod. We can probably look back to a series of events that her firing was a culmination of events, but it didn't begin with her. We can look back to the termination of the former city manager, whereas our mayor alluded to, the department heads had problems with his leadership style. I believe that's what you said. Anyway.
No, it's not, but okay.
Anyway, he was terminated prior to his contract being up, and all indications were that the position was going to be filled by our city attorney. However, that was met with severe pushback from public and maybe some other counselors as well, and we opened the process up to posting the job on the website and going beyond. And that's how we ended up with Jamie McLeod being hired instead of our city attorney. So that's where we are at this point. We're in a rather similar spot, because now 4 months later, after department heads have voiced their concern with her leadership style, we have yet terminated another city manager, and we find ourselves looking for a new city manager, an interim city manager at this point, maybe, probably, possibly. And we also have yet again another hand-picked individual who was put forth as the only option that we have. Well, after city citizen input and councilor input as well, it was posted on the website, as I understand it, and we now have another person who is stepping into this particular milieu, this particular mess. Paula Brown, Rear Admiral Paula Brown. Her vitae, her resume, her dossier is impressive. And whereas she may not have the experience of running city administration, she's certainly well versed and versatile enough that I think she could probably pick it up, or at least she'd be able to be very helpful in. Am I ready?
Thank you. It's happened 3 times so far, but we're going to we really should speak to things that are not on the agenda at this point, and we're more than welcome to speak to items on the agenda when that time comes. I know Carolyn and Andy had spoke about the appointment of a new city councilor. That should be talked about at that point in time. Ryan's just pointing out that the things that you're talking about now are regarding an interim city manager, and that subject comes up.
Okay, so can I come back and
Absolutely.
speak to that when that's on the
Absolutely, Ryan.
All right, cool. Bottom line, whatever we do, however we do it, just do it decently in order.
Yep.
Let's keep it above board and transparent.
Thank you.
And slow, methodical. Thank you.
Lila, come on.
Yes, I don't know if I can get out of here. Can I speak from here? Oh, okay, thank you. Well, that's very
Paul,
nice.
finding solutions.
Thank you so much. Item Lila Highwell, 11670 Lane.
Thank you.
On the current Parks Commission and School Board of Armadillo Charter School. I got really involved when we had our 100th birthday here in the city, when Carlos Cabrera was the mayor. And I asked people on the city government for things I wanted. And I was thinking back, I got all my requests but one. And that's okay, because it isn't always, I don't always get what I want. So lately, there were some people telling me what they wanted, and it was a Citizens Advisory Committee. And I talked to our mayor about that, and he said, well, you have to ask for something more specific than that, not just a committee. And one thing I'm interested in is the growth boundary planning. So I don't know if there can be a separate committee that somehow gives input. But I do know people want more input.
Yeah.
In many ways.
And there is a committee that does that and serves on it, and yeah, that's already formed, and if you'd like to apply for that, we'd love to have it if there's an opening.
Okay, and also, sorry I'm remiss in not attending meetings since the beginning of the year, and we have new counselors, and I think I met Stuart at Parks, and I know one other question, I had a question about the leadership, your leadership group you said was Bruce and, is it Jim?
Yeah.
And you, Chris.
Correct.
So is that chosen because they're senior counselors? How is that?
Well, typically we don't give and take, but tonight we're gonna do this. It was chosen because everybody else is new. And on the leadership committee, typically you have more experienced individuals on the leadership committee, and Bruce and Jim were the most experienced people on the committee. And in the first meeting of the year, we do elect a vice president and a president to the council, and that's by charter. And then the vice president and the president are part of the leadership committee. And just let me say that in a few weeks, we're going to have a training session on open meeting laws, and everyone's invited. It'll be in the sun, right? And we're also going to talk about the leadership group and what they do and what they're supposed to do. And that's a question come up also, and we're gonna talk about this, and we're gonna host a
Okay.
meeting to do that.
Thank you.
More than
'cause
welcome.
I just think more people want more information.
Sure.
And I want you to know, I was part of I was asked to be on that committee to create the chart, the latest charter.
Yeah.
And I don't even remember what all those things are. And I want to get a copy of the charter.
It's on the website.
I want to learn more about city checks and balances and all those legal things, which is not my expertise at all. So we all need to be better informed, so. And I appreciate you all being here, it's not an easy task.
Well,
You have a position
and-
on the planning
Lynn?
commission too, I think, isn't it?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I think one in the budget also, there's a number of.
I'm on the
things.
budget committee for the
So-
urban renewal also. Thank you.
Lynn Cohen, 401 North Church.
Thank you, Lila.
That would be me, Lynn Cohen, 401 North Church in Phoenix. To the mayor and city council and everybody else in the city of Oregon, I've lived in Phoenix for 33 years. I'm not a political being, and it takes a lot to drag me out of my cave. A lot of my words will be coming because I had seen the testimonies and the minutes from the meeting on March 8th, and it gave me a lot of concern. In the last 33 years, I've seen the government of this town, the people that have been played to ostrich by not keeping government accountable, the lack of checks and balances, the acts of cronyism and the good old boys politics, and a lack of transparency in town. And this has all made Phoenix once again the laughing stock of the valley. Council, we call upon the mayor and the council to receive proper training in public meeting laws and parliamentary procedure if they can't be followed on their own. At the March 8th special city council meeting, why was the city manager's concerns about payroll discrepancies and other financial problems and immediate need for adequate checks and balances not addressed, although the mayor says that he has addressed that now? Council, why are the mayor and city attorney engaging in private conversation and note passing during public meetings? And where are those notes that were passed between the mayor and the city attorney at the March 8th meeting? As those notes